Now, even if you have money, I mean, seriously, you have some little bit of it. These are the 5 things that you're supposed to avoid doing them. And a lot of people get themselves into it, all right? So draw close, watch this video to the end because I'm going to explain to you what are these things that you're supposed to avoid even if you have more money, okay? And some people tend to disregard this and then start regretting later, all right? So let's get into the business. But I bet it's my role to inform you that I usually post a video each and every day. And I post about money, and my name is Joseph. Talk about anything related to investments. So if you're out there and you're like, hey, Joseph, what should I do so that I don't miss any of your good videos in future? Do this. It doesn't cost you anything. Down below there on your right, there is a small button written subscribe. Hit that magical button, like this video. By the way, I'm giving this information for free. Just hit that like button, all right? Let's get into the business. Now, the very first point is that funding your fit-in expenses. Now, let me explain this point, what it means. Now, there is something called fit-in expenses. To fit in, you see, you do have your friends, you do have some guys whom you hang around with and what have you. Now, what I mean by fit-in expenses is when by you realize, let's say each and every Saturday, you guys usually go to that expensive place where usually maybe drink or maybe get that coffee or maybe go for that restaurant or maybe let's say that, ride that, staycation or something of sort. And because this is what you do, you and your friends. So for you to be able to fit in, be able not to lose your friend, then it means that you have to pay for that expenses. Have you ever seen an individual who they're really struggling? The amount of money that they're getting at the end of the day, month or week or whichever the time you get paid is not really capable of funding that lifestyle that you have. But the point is this: you're worried. If you don't do what your friends do, then it means at the end of the day you might lose them, and you losing them means it's disadvantaged because hey, you have nobody else as your friend. All right, now that's what we call the fit-in expenses. One thing that you're supposed to understand or let your friends understand is that, hey, guess what? Yeah, I understand. Each and every Sunday, you guys usually go somewhere. You drive and all those kind of things, like you go for that staycation, drink that coffee joint, whatever the place. But guess what? I don't do my things this way. This is when I do it, and I don't do this frequent and all those kind of things. It's always good to make sure that you let them understand this is you. And guess what? There are consequences, and I'll tell you what are they. Number one, those friends, they tend to disregard you. They tend to make it you look like as if you are, let me tell you one secret about this life. The moment you start becoming different from the majority tends to see you like an outcast. They tend to see as if you're proud, you're kind of things. It's like you are, it's like you're questioning them. It's like you're making them look as if they're doing a mistake or something. I remember there was a time I received a call from my friend, and I met them in a club. They were drinking, by the way. I don't drink. I went there and I met them. And as they were seated there drinking, and I was seated just next to them, and they asked me, "What are you gonna take?" I say, "I'm okay with fruit juice or soda, or whatever the thing is." Okay, I'm don't feel any shame. It's me. That's my thing. And then as I was sipping in my soda and what have you, they were saying, "How do you view us? You view us as if you are wasting money, right?" And I was like, "Why should you ask me that question? We were not even having that kind of a discussion. Why would you just out of nowhere ask me that question?" All right, so the point is, don't struggle to fit in. If you realize that the class is too high, change the school, go to a different location. When I say location, I mean in a different situation. Like if you realize you are actually paying a lot of expenses to fit in, so drop that from that school, join another class and go your thing. All right, because let me tell you one thing: these expenses that you're actually trying to fit in expenses, you can channel it towards you paying your rent, you can channel it towards you investment, you can channel it towards you saving that money. It can be an emergency fund, it can be a sinking fund, it can be all those kind of things. All right, so avoid doing what we call the fit in expenses. All right, now the other one is about starting a business. This is a mistake that I usually find people doing. Just because you have some money somewhere and you feel like, hey, I do have some money. How much would it cost to start a cosmetic business? How much would it, imagine to start like a serial business? And the people tell you like, even with 150,000, you can. I can start it. I have the money. So you go out there, you start the business, and you just because you have the cash. Starting a business, you see, starting a business is not only founded on the basis of you having the money, has to cater for a difference. Like you having a box and everything is out there, whereby for you to start a business, capital checked, you must have it obviously. Number two, for you to start a business, you ought to have like a good location, tick. You ought to understand the business that you're starting, tick. You ought to know, hey, who are your target customers, tick. You ought to know, hey, guess what, this location, this and this and this, the expenses, the rents, and what, tick. You have to understand, hey, all the pricing, the competition, all those kind of things. Don't start a business on the basis of, I have money. There are people who tell you that, hey, guess what? I have some idle money in my bank. I don't know what I can be able to do. What idea would you give me to start on? All right. And you tell them, hey, how much do you have? Like I say, well, I can part ways with like 300K. Okay, fine. With 300K, I think you can be able to go out there and start 1, 2, 3. They're like, oh, okay, can start a hardware. You go start a hardware. You know nothing about hardware. And then you're starting a business on the basis of you having money. Capital is amazing. Capital is good, but it's not only the only factor that you're supposed to consider before starting a business. So avoid it and be very, very careful. And I want you to understand my message. I did not say you should not start a business when you have money. No, I said just because you have money does not mean you should start a business on the basis of you having money. You should start a business on the basis of you having money and other factors on top of that. That's where the people, for example, you might have a man somewhere saying, hey, I just want to start a business for my wife because, hey, why not? Why not? I just have it. And then you're out there, you start that business, and then by the time you realize you're 300K, you're 400, you're a million, you're 3 million, is gone. All right. So avoid starting a business on the basis that hey, I have money and I can be able to do exactly that. Let's go to point number 3. That's C, buying on the basis of I can afford. Have you ever met somebody who telling you, or you ask them, hey, why did you decide to buy that? I can afford. I mean, it's not a big issue. I can afford it. You see, the reason as to why they bought that thing is I can afford it. Do you need it? Do you want it? No, I can just afford it. Why not? And then sometimes they ask you, why not? That should be the alternative. I can afford it. It's why not? Why not to buy it? You ask them, why are you on this big whatever and maybe you're why not? You see, that should not be the basis of you spending your money. Money is amazing and you should not view it from a point of consumption. You should view it as a point of, or you should view it as a tool to make more of it. That is what you're supposed to understand when it comes to money. So one thing that you're supposed to do is that avoid buying things on the basis I can afford it. Yeah, that should be that should be also a factor to consider when you're buying it. Can you afford it? Yes, I can. Okay, fine. Apart from me affording it, now then what other factors am I considering before buying this specific item? Okay, I need it. Why do I need it? Because it's gonna help me do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and I'm not gonna afford it or I'm gonna buy it because hey, at the end of the day, I need these guys to. You get what I'm saying? Like you can justify the reason as to why you're acquiring that thing. And if you're in a capability, or if you have the capability to justify yourself why you're buying it, giving yourself the authentic answers to that, then guess what happens? You always get your value for your money. That's the point. All right. So avoid saying, I can afford it, I can do it, why not, and all those kind of things. Okay. Now we go to the point number 4. Living a life to prove a point. You see, have you ever met this kind of a guys who like, let's say you have a family, you have some children somewhere, and then maybe you hear a friend saying like, hey, I actually pay like 300K for my school fees for my kids. I love them going to international schools. I love them doing this. And there you are, you're like, okay, I can afford that. I think I can afford it. You go, take your kids to that kind of a school because you just want to prove a point. Maybe you go live in an apartment whereby it's way above your weight. You're punching above your weight. You're struggling. Okay, so you go buy, or if you go rent that piece of apartment, or maybe you get yourself a very heavy machine in terms of a car that is really a guzzler. You cannot even, you are barely surviving with that car, but you just want to prove a point to them and show them, hey, guess what, guys, I can also do it. Don't be, listen. Nobody's watching. And as you grow old, you'll come to realize nobody was actually watching. It was all by yourself. And all those expenses that you're incurring just to prove a point was not of any importance. So what you're supposed to understand is this. Hey, everybody, they are moving on their own pace. And whenever you're buying a thing, just buy it on the basis of it's me who want it. It's gonna do this and this and that for the sake of my own life. This issue of making it look as if you're competing with people into buying things. No. They say work in silence and then the successors shout for you. That's what you're supposed to do. But if you're out there competing with anybody and everyone, trying the best as you can, that's not really what you're supposed to do when it comes to your money. So the point is, try to live in a life that hey, very well, that you can accommodate it, you can afford it consistently, because the point is not you doing that. For example, you go to that, paying your kids for that very expensive school, and then after that, after some times you have some fee arrears and what have you, you're receiving call after call after call because you cannot even afford it. Or if maybe you're not even receiving any call, but you're not saving a dime, you cannot even be able to survive, you're barely even standing, but you just want to prove a point out there. Stop struggling proving a point to people. nobody is watching. People are so much busy, people are so much engaged with their today's economies, and people are not even watching it. They cannot even realize you've not even changed your shoes. That's how serious the life is. So don't view it as if like it's like you are on a limelight. Everybody there, staring at you or gawping at you and looking at everything that you. Just be out there. Just be at ease. Okay, just be at ease. Move according to your pace, and also understand one thing: as much as it's a competition, you don't have to really go there compete in terms of spending. You'd rather compete in terms of making. That's a good competition. But when you compete in terms of spending, then you're gonna get yourself on the rough end. So what did I say? Make sure that at least you do not have to prove a point out there. Move in a pace that you know you can be able to sustain it, not only today, but for quite a long time. Okay? The last one, but not the least, is that viewing others as they are not smart. That's why they do not have that what you have. Have you ever met an average individual whom you're trying to borrow an advice? You ask them, hey, what can I do? Before even take you, they tell you, you know why people don't even have money? Because you don't have to think. You don't want to think. You people, you're very dumb. You're very stupid. This is what you're supposed to do. You can go out there, do this. You're like, oh my goodness. Just because you have money, it's not because that you're really smart. And I can assure you this. Yeah, there is the essence or elements of you being smart. And I told you one thing. If you can understand that being successful, it's an intersection between hard work and luck. And everyone can be able to control hard work, but you can't control luck. When the two intercede, then it means that at that particular point, you're now being successful. So when you view it to people like they don't think, they don't. If you can tell people you are lazy, you don't work hard, you don't do, it makes sense. But when you tell them you don't think, you're not, there's some things that don't add up. And sometimes most of the people who we meet along the way, then they do not have money. It's not on the basis that they don't think. Maybe they have not gotten an idea, and if they can get that an idea, they can be able to proceed to the next level. And I always love to take this. We all learn from each other. And just like an iron sharpens another iron, so do we learn from each other. The point is, there are some people who are very lazy, they squander their cash, they all don't want to think and all those kind of things. But the fact is, some of the people whom you find on the street here working as hard as they can, they really think a lot. And if it's a matter of thinking, probably they think more than you. So it's always good to make sure, hey, guess what? Whenever you realize there is a weakness inside of them, tell them, hey, I think here and here, this is where you are doing it wrong. And basically, if I can call it, you're not thinking of this area, so be it. But I remember when I cleared my university, you try to borrow an advice from somebody who is perceived to be wealthy, and they tell you, guess what, I can do this. And some of the ideas that they are giving you are not even applicable to your life. They cannot even work. That works for, especially sometimes you may find the boomers. Boomers are like our parents. You find like they have a way of how they did succeed in their lives, and it's quite slightly different from how we view our lives. So, and they're just trying to take how they did their things back then in 70s and 60s, and they're trying to bring that here on board. And sometimes does not even augur well, does not even go according to the way it used to happen back then. So the point is this: I love, if you have money, appreciate every set of human beings, be it in their class, whether they're up, down, below, middle, whatever the case is. Just listen to them. If you know you won't even help them, just listen to them. And whenever you realize you can be able to act, you cannot be able to go ahead and offer a hand on them, just tell them, I'm not in a position to help you, so be it. And that's it, rather than punching them with like rude and telling them you're stupid, you're gonna be as poor as your father. Even your father was as stupid as you are when your father was a young man, was just like you. And I don't think that is really the way you're supposed to, to view things, and especially to life. Because, hey, guess what? This life, we need finance, and as well, we also need the social life. Those are two things, and also spiritual. We need to be those so that at least we can progress to the next level. All right? So anyway, for now, it's a goodbye, but don't forget, you can always pick my number from the description of this specific video. Give me a call. Let's talk about finance. Let's talk about booklets, because I have them. Copy goes for only 280. For now, it's a goodbye, and see you in the next one. See ya.